We have our Director of Loss Control who will talk about some of the resources and also will address some of the questions that were submitted beforehand. And then we have Matt and Jake that represent Insurance Board. They're two of our agents that work with one of our appointed agencies. So with that, I am going to share my slides and hopefully you can see these. Okay. Do you see the slides right now? Yes, I am getting a yes. So I am Farnaz Ansari. I work for Insurance Board. I have been with Insurance Board for about 9 years, and it has been a pleasure serving churches and working with the denominations that we work with. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who we are. I know we do insure out of the 47 churches that you have with the Presbytery, we insure about 27 or so. It has been a great experience for us to work with your Presbytery. I'm trying to get this, my slide is giving me a little bit of a hard time, so I apologize. Do you guys still see the slides? Yes.
Yes.
They have gone so tiny. Okay, so we should be on a slide that talks about Insurance Board history. We were organized about 40 years ago or so. We're actually celebrating our 40-year anniversary this year. And back in the 1980s, very similar to today's market, churches were having a difficult time finding property and liability insurance at a good price and good coverage. And leaders of United Church of Christ talked to their some of their leaders that were involved with the insurance industry, and Insurance Board was born as a solution for United Church of Christ ministries. And later on, and after we were incorporated, we started working with additional denominations that have an ecumenical relationship with the United Church of Christ. And those denominations, first we, Christian Church Disciples of Christ, ended up joining our program and taking advantage of our offerings. In 2009, Presbyterian Church USA became a partner of Insurance Board. PCUSA, some of you might remember, had its own insurance program, and they were having a difficult time, and they came to Insurance Board, and we were able to actually step in and start covering those ministries. Since 2009, we have really grown with Presbyterian Church USA, and currently we insure about 1,500 or so PCUSA churches. Some of the other denominations that we serve is Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and also Reformed Church in America. So as you can see, a lot of the denominations have a formula of agreement with United Church of Christ, which enables us to work and welcome those churches and denominations into our program. A little bit more about Insurance Board. We are a program of covenant. We're a nonprofit organization. We only work with churches and affiliated ministries. And our mission is to connect faith-based institutions to comprehensive and customized risk and insurance management solutions anchored in shared trust and shared sacred responsibility. So we tend to provide, as a part of that shared trust and sacred responsibility, we do provide a lot of resources to our ministries to help them stay safe and manage risk. And Chad Cunningham, my colleague who is on the call, will share some of those resources and provide some tips. And as I mentioned, we're currently insuring about 1,500 Presbyterian Church USA churches and affiliated ministries, and including 27 of the churches from your presbytery. A little bit more about IB. As I mentioned, we're one of the partners of Presbyterian Church USA. We're one of the 3 insurance programs that are recognized by the Office of Risk Management with PCUSA, and we're very honored to serve your ministries, and hopefully we can assist additional churches within your presbytery. So some of the ways we partner with your denomination is our support of a lot of different events that we attend and we sponsor. Before many of you joined, Donna and I were having a sidebar conversation about the upcoming General Assembly next year. And we're hopeful that we will be able to come back as a partner and exhibitor and provide some resources in the exhibit hall. Pre-COVID, it was one of the bigger events that we would attend. We were in the exhibit hall the entire time. We would provide a lot of resources, provide workshops, during the events. And so we look forward to continuing that partnership, and if you have the opportunity. If you see an exhibit hall at General Assembly, we're probably there. Come and visit us. Outside of that, we do go to individual presbytery meetings. We do provide webcasts and workshops. Some of the events that I have coming up this year in partnership with some of my colleagues as we attend Mid-Council Financial Conference. Our CEO, Tim Harris, is actually one of the speakers. PCCA, the Presbyterian Church Camp and Conference Association. This year it's a multi-denominational event. We are one of the sponsors and we will be there. So if you have anybody attending from your presbytery, have them stop by and chat with us. APSI, Chad and I both will be at Stewardship Kaleidoscope. He's doing a couple workshops there. And then we attend the Presbyterian Women event, and then the youth event that is coming up in a couple weeks. Chad will be attending that event as well. Speaking of Chad, he's a director of our loss control department, and we do have a lot of services and resources for your churches when it comes to providing risk management tools for protecting your people and keeping them safe, and protecting your property and keeping it in a good shape so people can come and worship and you can focus on serving God. And one of those tools is we provide a quarterly newsletter to our insureds and also any of the PCUSA churches that would be interested. They're usually on different topics, all risk management and loss control related. And for our insureds, they get a paper copy mailed to them. And if you're interested in a digital copy, feel free to drop me an email. We'll be more than happy to sign you up, or you can just sign up on our website pretty easily. Something else I wanted to mention as an insurance provider, we do offer a lot of webcasts. Some of them are actually facilitated by our internal team. And sometimes we go outside and we bring in facilitators that are experts on a specific topic that we don't have expertise in. But again, if your presbytery needs any resources, we have a ton on our website, including pre-recorded webcasts. In addition to that, if there's a topic that your presbytery is interested in, we'll be more than happy to put a workshop or a webcast together for you. Another resource that I wanted to mention is our abuse prevention resources. We work with a company called Presidium, and one of the tools that I know your presbytery uses through Presidium is the background screening. So there are a lot of options with that. I'm going to take a pause and see if Chad wants to chime in a little bit about the Presidium abuse prevention resources.
Sure. Thank you, Farnaz. Thank you all for letting us be here and discuss what we have. When we look at risk mitigation, and that's what loss control is, right? How do we mitigate risks and different ways to do that? Abuse prevention resources, what's cool about this concept and what we provide to the presbyteries and all of our participants is most of this is free of charge. If you're a participant of us, you actually get subsidized in our screening. So and the Presbytery knows they get a nice, as a participant, there's some subsidy there. But when we look at the abuse prevention resources, Presidium Academy, the Academy is great. That's free online training to allow individuals and people who work with youth and vulnerable adults to have a foundation of information and training to understand what are the red flags of abuse. How can we stop those red flags from happening? And then do we have a duty to report? And if we do, how do we report? So a lot of good information there, about 60 courses you have to choose from, and able to set those foundations. And it does help with how the book leads us into saying about what kind of training we have to do. It does support that. We have our assessment tool where you can see where your church is with Presidium's 8 categories of how they say is a safe environment. So do you have policies? Do you do background screening? Do you have checks and balances in place? So there's 8 different categories and options, they say, that comes together to form a safe environment. So that's a great concept there too. And again, policies. Policies, if you haven't checked up on your policy, we should be reviewing our policies every year or two, but we do have updated templates and policies. So if you need to check to see, all right, how old is ours? What's ours really have? Are we in best practices? You can always look on our website and see our updated policy. It was just updated about 90 days ago. And we kind of broke it down into 3 different areas: a baseline of, we don't have youth right now, but, we do have people. So here's our base policy. We do have a youth program, so we're going to add, so we kind of made it a modular approach. We add the youth component modular to add to the base policy. And then we look at, in policy, I mean written processes and policies, not your insurance policy. And then, if we have employees and whatnot, how to put it in with your employment and full-time and part-time employees, and how to make sure information is there within your employment practices. So a lot of good stuff there. Again, you can see everything there out on our website at insuranceboard.org. And as Farnaz said, Safety Central, and just scroll down and you can see abuse prevention there. All right. Thank you, Farnaz.
Thank you. Yeah, lots of good resources on our website. And abuse prevention is huge for us. And I'm glad to hear, your Presbytery, your headquarters does utilize these services. So we appreciate that. There are additional risk management tools and resources that you can also find on our website. We have a lot of human resources type content out there that you can use, for sample policies and things like that. This specific product is called EPL Pack Premier. It's very unique to our, we provide it to our insureds as a part of, the policy that they have with us. And there's a ton of information about the HR related resources out there on our website, including a pre-recorded webcast that kind of tells you a little bit about it, how to log in, how to access some of these sample policies and procedures. It is one of those common questions we get from churches, do you have sample policies? We do have a lot of HR related sample policies that are housed in this specific resource. So I kind of wanted to mention that. So that kind of is a very, very quick, high level overview of some of our most used, I would say, resources that we have to provide. But again, a lot of different resources out there. If there's something specific that you need help with, reach out to myself, reach out to Chad, and we will be able to assist you. With that, I want to kind of shift gears and change gears and kind of talk a little bit about the insurance environment right now. So commercial insurance is definitely very impacted by a lot of different factors, including the number of storms you're seeing coming in, the hurricanes, the weather activities, the massive fires, wildfires that are ongoing in different areas of the country. And we have been fortunate that despite the hardened market right now, I know there are churches might not necessarily be happening in your state, but there are churches, struggling to find insurance in certain states. And we're blessed to say, we're still writing insurance in all 50 states. We have been working very hard in managing risk, providing our churches with the, right tools to make sure that they're doing everything that they can do in their power to protect themselves and remain insurable and try to mitigate and avoid, being in a situation that they have a lot of claims. There are unfortunately insurance programs or companies that are having a hard time. Maybe they didn't work on, helping manage risk as much. And they're struggling a little bit and they're non-renewing some of the churches in certain states. Again, I don't know if it's impacting, your state or not, but again, we are committed to serving churches. All we do is, provide insurance to churches and affiliated ministries, and it is important for us to continue that mission and be an assistance to the churches. So we are here, to help and provide insurance and risk management resources to your ministries. If any of you are interested in a proposal or looking at insurance board, we will be more than happy to talk and connect you with Matt, who is on the call, and I believe we have another representative from Sovereign as well. And I will tell you a little bit about how we work with our agencies. So we have Insurance Board is based out of Cleveland, Ohio. And we work with independent agencies that have a passion for working with nonprofits and ministries. And so they provide commercial insurance to churches and schools and some nonprofits. And we are fortunate to work with one of those agencies that is called Sovereign Insurance. And we will, hear from that team in a couple of minutes. And they're the ones that work with your presbytery. So if any of your churches are interested in a proposal, you would be working with Sovereign Insurance to get a proposal from Insurance Board. And they have protected territories. So the agency that is working with you is the only agency that will be able to provide you a proposal from Insurance Board. So I did want to mention that. A little bit of contact information for myself and Chad in case any of you have any questions. And then also contact information for Matt and Jake is listed here. I'm going to let Matt take over and kind of introduce himself and tell you a little bit about Sovereign Insurance. And I'm going to stop the presentation sharing because after this, we're going to go into some of your questions that you have submitted to the Presbytery office beforehand. And we will go through their 11 questions. We will go through those questions and provide some answers. If there are additional questions or you need additional clarification, we can always put a Q&A page together and provide it to the Presbytery office so they can share that with you. So with that, I'm going to pause and turn it over to Matt.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Matt Suloff from Sovereign Insurance. We are a broker agency, which just means we insure a lot of churches with a lot of different carriers. And our partnership with Insurance Board has been awesome over the last couple of years. As you can imagine, we're really excited about offering quotes to all of you who aren't in the program and helping anyone who is in the program answer any questions about their coverages or how they end up in the market as well. I'm sure everybody has been seeing or hearing of insurance increases over the last couple of years. Either you had it or the church down the road had it. So what I would say is send your policies over to us and we'll definitely take a look and see how we can help. The worst thing that would happen with that is we just say, sorry, you're in the right spot and we can't help you. Sovereign has a 60+ year track record, so we've been around for a long time. We're one of the leading insurance agencies for churches. We insure currently over 5,000 churches, and we're actually only about 30 minutes from, or 30 miles from the headquarters, and can always pop down and help answer any questions if needed. As I said before, we've seen a lot of restructuring in the insurance market over the last couple of years. Carriers have been increasing their rates or lowering um, their ability to offer coverage, lowering limits. Insurance Board has held firm with that and been able to offer a lot of the same coverages that they've always been able to offer. So I would say if you're experiencing an increase or just want to take a look, definitely reach out to myself, Jake, or Insurance Board themselves, and they'll make sure to get everything over to us and we'll see how we can help. And I'm here to answer any questions about the hard market or anything like that as well, the submission process, anything that I can help with.
Thank you so much, Matt. Okay. With that, if the group is okay, we will go through the 11 questions that were submitted to Insurance Board before the meeting. And if there is time and there are additional questions, we can, address those as well. The first question we got was address accurate and current valuation of church asset as they relate to insurance. A lot of times when you think about valuation, you think about like, the value of your property. And one of the things that we have noticed is a lot of the properties are undervalued right now. And it's so important to make sure that your church, we have like the accurate value for the church when we're insuring it, so you can buy adequate insurance for your church. And if when you're working with your agent, there are a couple different ways that they can assist with that. We do access a service called Marshall and Swift. So the agency that works with us, such as Matt or Jake, they can submit a Marshall and Swift request, and it will provide evaluation for the church. But the most accurate way of getting evaluation is through doing an appraisal. We do have a partner that we work with, and Industrial Appraisal is the name of their company. And I will provide a link that you can get a proposal for how much they would. It's a no obligation. You can kind of like look at it and see, how much that appraisal would cost as far as providing you an accurate number for the value of your church. With that, I'm going to pause and see, Matt or Jake, do you have anything that you want to add about property valuation?
Yeah, I would just touch that it is very important to make sure that your building is valued correctly. Insurance Board does try and do all of that in every way possible. They do have some increased limits available as well. There's margin clause included as well. So they are one of the best at trying to make sure that your building is actually valued to what it would be if there is a total collapse. And a lot of other carriers are not currently providing that. So I think that's a very good positive that they're offering right now.
Thank you, Matt. The next question that we have is related to creative insurance solutions. And I have a feeling where this question is coming from. A lot of times when you're looking at you get that invoice from the insurance company, and it is a big part of your budget. So we are getting that question a lot. How do we get creative and kind of look at different ways of possibly reducing that premium? So, some of the things that in partnership with our agencies we have been working on is, if a church comes to us and they say, this is really, putting a hinder on our budget, can we look at some creative solutions? A lot of times you can look at maybe adjusting some of the coverages, adjusting the deductibles up, sometimes bring the premiums down. The other thing that you can do as a church is a lot of times if you have taken active steps to mitigate risk, at your property, you have been updating things, you have been fixing things, you have been putting, for example, a water sensor in, or, installing a water shutoff system. Like really you have taken charge of making sure that you're managing risk, talk to your agent about that. So if there are improvements happening at your church, make sure that you notify your agent so they can let us know, and then we can kind of look at giving you credit for some of that great work that you're doing. Kind of going back to that shared and sacred responsibility. We want to give you the tools to take care of your church and making sure that the coverages we're providing are the right coverages for you, and the deductibles that you have are the right deductibles for you. And if you have taken advantage of any updates and upgrading and putting in new policies and procedures and installing new technology, please do let us know. And I know as I was talking about water sensors and water shutoffs, Chad was kind of shaking his head yes. So I don't know if you want to add anything about kind of like those things that they can do that underwriting loves to hear about, that kind of helps, adjust premiums down.
No, I mean, you hit it right on top there, Farnaz. Anytime, and I just had a conversation not too long ago with one of our participants saying, well, how do we reduce this? And I asked, what have you been doing? Oh, well, we did this and we did this and we did this. And especially if you've done anything with roofs, if anybody, and I know the agents are going to be shaking their heads on this one, because that's what we're looking for is roofs. If you've updated the roof, if you put on a new roof, and I know we're all looking like, Chad, what do you think, we have that money in our back pocket? I understand that also. But again, it should be in our budgetary aspects to make sure that the wear and tear on our roofs is, when it's time, that 25 years, 30 years on our roofs, that we can put those new roofs back on, because that does reduce. So looking at, and it kind of flows into our third one. Is it all right if I talk about our third question, Farnaz, as we're talking through this? It kind of
Yeah, sure.
fits into that, if it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so the third question that was presented to us is how to do a risk assessment, and Chad is going to take that one.
Yeah, so it all kind of flows into it. So when we look at, these creative solutions, raising deductibles, the biggest thing is, how is our property looking? How's our liability? Are we keeping everything up to par? A lot of times wear and tear kind of jumps in where we're at. So how do we do a risk assessment? Well, I'm going to send over to Donna probably tomorrow 2 forms. They are a full property checklist and a full liability checklist. And this are questions that you can ask yourself, and it's kind of a self-assessment of what your church and property is looking at. So just as a high level, because we don't have a lot of time to go through all this, is, exterior inspection. What's the exterior like? What are the stairs like? Do you have more than 1/4 inch or 3/4 of an inch? Any more than 1/4 inch distance between your walkways? That's a slip, trip, and fall hazard. That's something that we would look at it when we come out to it. Looking at your kitchen and checklist at the same time, you get chicken, right? So a kitchen checklist. So what kind of kitchen do you have? Is it commercial? Is it residential? If it's commercial and we're cooking things, does it have a fryer? How do you change your oil? Do you have a suppression system within the kitchen? Do you have the hood over top of the stove and oven cleaned yearly by an approved? Do you have a K, fire extinguisher, which is the silver ones inside the kitchens, commercial? Because again, our churches are considered commercial. So it gives you a checklist there. Your fire suppression, your ABC fire extinguishers, are they checked yearly? Do you have electrical checks throughout? Do you have it, your electrical boxes checked on a daily, not daily, but yearly basis, going through there. So it provides all that information. And what's nice about what I'm going to send over to y'all to hand out is, you can make notes and observations as you go down and answer these. Then on the back, as you make improvements, right? Because that's what the agents like Matt and Jake, and they want to know, so they can talk to our underwriters and try to get you the best deal they possibly can, right? The best premium. And by doing that is getting those assessments, getting those building values is very, very important. So that's our property side. Our liability side is just as important. So health and safety checklist, security checklist, management checklist, right? Do you have an alarm system in play? Does it go out somewhere? As Farnaz said, is there a water sensor program? Is it being monitored? Contracts and computer checklists, finance, vehicles, playgrounds, repairs and improvements, right? What are you doing if you have vehicles being driven, 15 passenger vans? Are you going through training? Are you doing background checks on them for motor vehicle. So a lot of different things, when we start talking about, a self-risk assessment, there's a lot of things to work through and talk through, but I'll send this out and it kind of will guide you. And if you have other questions, as Fernand says, give us a call. We can walk you through different things. I love to talk to our participants because I get to know you, you get to know me, and we can start working together to make sure that we can have good, healthy ministries so we can continue what we very much like to do. So that's number 3.
Yes, thank you, Chad. And I think those checklists will, come very handy. So we will put an email together and you will get, so far, 2 checklists and information about industrial appraisals and how to get a proposal from them. Our next question is going to put Chad back on this stage, but he just ran away. It is it's kind of like a discussion around what would insurance board encourage for churches related to renting out facilities like kitchens and food truck prep work and things like that.
So when we look at, and again, this is kind of other ways that we are getting creative and bringing revenue into our churches, right? We're renting our facilities out. The biggest thing when renting our facilities out, there's risk to that. So everything we do in life is risk. But when we start having somebody else come into our building, there's risk there. And what we want to do is try to, again, either share the risk, push the risk, or accept the risk, are the top 3, right? We don't want you to accept all the risk, right? We need to share this risk. So what happens is anytime somebody's going to use your kitchen, if they're going to come in and do food prep, anytime they're in your building and going to be using it for any sort of time, there should be a facility use agreement. Now, a facility use agreement is very, very important. It provides expectations on what's expected from the person renting. We're just going to call it renting or using the space, and you as the church. What do we expect from each other? Here's what I expect from you. Here's what you expect from me. We should be receiving from them copies of insurance. They should be carrying their own insurance while they're on our property, utilizing it for whatever the case may be. Because again, especially, all right, so I'm, food truck prep is one part of the questions. Well, if I'm on food prep truck and I'm using your kitchen, all of a sudden I cut myself with a knife that I actually borrowed out of your tray because I forgot mine. And now I have 15 stitches, I can't work. What could happen? They could come back on you saying, well, your knife was too sharp. Not that I didn't know how to use it. It's just, it was too sharp. It was your fault because I forgot, So we know how that kind of works. So we don't want it to be on our insurance. We want it to be on their own insurance. So facility use agreements is important to set those parameters. Inside that, it's a hold harmless indemnification aspect should be part of it, as that party holds us harmless through there. And just by raise of hands, is there anybody already using a facility use agreement with people who come in and out? Just kind of raise your hand. All right, Lance does, Jimmy does. I think I saw Kern, or he's just moving around, not sure. So good. So some of us are already. Excellent. Now, what we'll also do is in this email, so now we're going to get 4 concepts. I hope somebody's keeping notes. This is recorded, so we can go back and listen to it. No, yeah. We have 4th one is I'm going to send out also a template for a facility use agreement. So we just got a brand new one off the presses, and it's a template. So remember, with any template, it just comes as a PDF. So you can not so much do the find and replace, but read through it, make sure it all matches with what you say. But this one's really good. We kind of combined a couple of them and got it through and look at it very much. But it's very, very important, y'all, that we do have a facility use agreement. They do have insurance. If they don't have insurance, if you're a participant of the insurance board, so this is another thing that we kind of bring to the table with our participants to support them in their ministries, is we have what's called a TULIP program. So a tenant user user liability something IP. Yes. Sorry, it's 5:30 here our time, so it's, the brain stops at 3 for me. I'm old. So when we look at the TULIP program, again, you can find it on our website under programs, and it's right there. It really talks about, and it's a great program because it allows, now when I say anybody, that means even the group of individuals who comes in to sew and make, Afghans and all that, even for that group, even for our, anonymous groups, Anybody that uses it, we should have a contract, which is the facility use agreement, insurance, because we want to share that risk. We don't want to always accept it. We want to share it because it helps us in the long run. Okay, I think I said enough. Did I answer that properly?
Yes.
Sometimes I get talking and, we just keep rolling.
Yeah, we only have
Thank
20
you.
more minutes.
I
so.
know, that's why I stopped. I was like, all right.
And what Chad was mentioning about, having that facility use agreement, it's so important. I sit through our large claims meetings and the number of claims we see that a tenant that didn't have any type of an agreement with the church and the church was letting them in as, goodness of their hearts. Whether if people are tripping and falling and getting, injured or, having different types of accidents, like those end up becoming very large claims for some of our ministries. And that impacts you because, you're paying the deductible and dealing with kind of like the aftermath of the claim, which kind of takes away from focusing on the ministry. So some of those policies and procedures are so important. And TULIP for churches that are insured by insurance board, as Chad said, great tool. If you have Girl Scouts coming in, you have AA meetings, you have groups that are coming for one-day events. It can be like an anniversary party or a birthday party at your church, or reoccurring meetings, like those AA meetings and things like that. There's an application right on our website. We will send Donna that form too. And you can get a proposal for how much it is. And basically the tenant would be using it. So the third party that is using your church is the one who's paying the premium, and they're inexpensive. Some of the one-day events might be $150. Some of the recurring events, again, in hundreds. Again, TULIP, and you get to the pages, tenants and users liability insurance program. Great tool to kind of mitigate risk and kind of transfer that risk to that insurance policy. So if something does happen during their event, the TULIP policy will be responsible for paying it out and not your church. So highly recommend that product as well. So now we're up to 5 resources we will be sending Donna. The list keeps growing. So this next question is going to be very, very easy for me to respond to. The question was, will a list of insurance companies be provided? I'm just going to talk about insurance board. Short and sweet. So we're from Insurance Board, provider of church insurance. We'll be more than happy to work with you. And we have Jacob and Matt from Sovereign Insurance who are licensed in your state and will be able to, provide you with a proposal. There's a question about liability maximum and minimum dollar amounts. Again, I would say for that one, do connect with your assigned agent based on the needs of your church. And, they will review your existing policy and have a conversation with you. And then they will figure out what coverages you need. The next question, what percentage of the value of the building does the average church spend on property insurance? This is an interesting one, and we can have a little bit of a conversation about it. There's no magical number. You can have 2 churches that have the same exact, like when you look at it, you're like, okay, this property value is, I'm just making up a number, 3 million. And then there's another church that their property value is 3 million, but their premiums are going to be so very different. So some of the things that impact the amount of premium you pay is, where are you located at? What is, the makeup of your building? What type of claims have you had in the past? What type of risk mitigation you have in place? We kind of talked about the water sensors and the new roofs and, things like that. So it's very hard. There's not like a actual percentage. When I looked at this question, and I know like a lot of you budget, per square footage, sometimes. But at the same time, when it comes to insurance, again, talking to your insurance agent and having them assess, your needs and coming up with a proposal, might be the best way of approaching it, just because there's not a magical number or, percentage that, we can, that it would be accurate. There's no magical number, unfortunately. There's a question about small church impact, my assumption is, we're talking about maybe some of the new church starts or some of the churches that are smaller and they might not need all the bells and whistles. We do have two different types of property liability products. One is classic, more for kind of like an average to larger churches. We do have a product called Flex. It's for smaller churches. It has less coverages, but at the same time, the premium ends up being less than a classic policy, just because the coverages are smaller and they're more geared towards a smaller ministry. Again, if you're a small ministry, let's say, even if you don't have property, you're just renting space from another church, we will be able to help you with that. You can be on a liability only policy. So, we insure churches from very, very small to very, very large. And our goal is to provide a proposal. So there are insurance companies right now that if you knock on their door, they might not even be able to provide you with a proposal. Our goal is a nonprofit and extension of a ministry. We want to provide that proposal and make sure that all the churches are insured. So again, talk to Matt and Jacob, and they will be able to provide you with some resources that will help your small church. What to look for when comparing policies and how to identify what is not covered. That is so important. Identifying what is not covered is, a lot of times I come across churches that buy insurance, they insure their property through, like, let's say an insurance company that does a lot of commercial, but they don't specialize in churches. But then you might not have coverage, for example, for pastoral counseling or sexual misconduct and things that can be unique to ministries. So kind of like finding those gaps are so important. That's why we rely on our local agents. If you provide us a copy of your existing policy, they will compare it side by side. We actually have something called a coverage comparison sheet, and it lists all the coverages that insurance board provides. We can put all the coverages that your current insurance provider provides you and kind of look at those gaps. Hey, your property is valued at this much, but you're only getting coverage for this much insurance. There is a gap here. We recommend you insure your property, at the value that it is, or, looking at, different lines of coverage, kind of looking to see if you don't have any coverage, because I have seen that too, people buy insurance and it's sometimes not for churches specifically, and there are major gaps. There are like multiple lines that are missing. It might be inexpensive, but, unfortunately, if something does happen, you have no coverage for that line, or yourself insuring your church, basically. So the church will have to pay out of pocket out of their bank account. So again, kind of working hand in hand with your agent. A lot of times I see them as advisors, because as Matt said, if they look at a policy and they're like, you're in a good shape and your pricing is amazing, stay put. I just had this very, very similar conversation with a camp and conference center over the weekend. I was in Memphis for the Christian Church Disciples of Christ General Assembly, and was speaking to a gentleman that runs a camp and conference center. And right now, getting insurance for camps and conference centers is very difficult. And he said his pricing hasn't been going up. He has kind of like a unique situation with a local agency, and they're doing a very good job for him. And we kind of chatted about some of his coverages. Said, you're in good hands. Stay where you're at. So if you're fully covered, you're, getting amazing pricing, Matt would be able to tell you. So, just come to us. We will do a coverage comparison for you. We can point out what is missing from your coverage and what the pricing will look like to add that coverage to your insurance policy. There is a question about, are there better alternatives than Church Mutual? So Church Mutual, big insurance company, they do provide insurance to churches, and I know they do insure a lot of PCUSA churches. They're one of the programs or companies that They have been non-renewing or sending cancellation notices to a lot of churches. Again, it might not be impacting your state, but we do hear from churches across the country that they're experiencing a kind of like a difficult time with maintaining their insurance with Church Mutual. Our doors are open. They do have a lot of resources. They have been, a company that has been around for a very, very long time. And at the same time, I feel like for Presbyterian Church USA, Insurance Board has been a very close and strong partner. When I, go to PCUSA events, I don't see any other insurance carrier being a sponsor. We don't see any other insurance carrier being, at the events, doing, workshops and providing webcasts and providing a lot of resources. So I feel that, we would be a good partner for your ministries. So please do consider us. Last question, and this is a big one, and I know you guys just had a storm going through your area as well, kind of talking about flood insurance and water backup claims. So if you are in a flood zone, obviously you would have flood insurance, or you could buy flood insurance through FEMA. And I'm assuming with water backup claims, the reference is to sewer backup. We do have coverage for that. So, every claim is different. So when a claim gets filed, we use what's called a TPA, a third-party administrator. We work with Travelers Insurance, and they send somebody and they assess the risk and they study, how the claim has happened and what the damage is. So when they will come in and kind of like assess when there's a water damage situation. So for churches that are in a flood zone, obviously the coverage will be more limited. So what Insurance Board would be providing would be limited. For churches that are not in a flood zone and you have coverage, again, they will study it, but there is coverage for sewer backup. There are deductibles that, the church would be responsible for, and the adjuster will review it. But the damage that is caused by the water backup, or the sewage backup, I should say, it is a covered item. And again, you would be working with your agent, submitting a claim, and then having the claim adjuster coming and doing this study, and then getting kind of like the result of, how much of the damage would be covered. But that is a covered risk. With that, I'm going to pause and see if Chad or Matt have anything else they want to add about some of these questions that we went through. Did we miss anything?
Yeah, I would just say, again, if you want to send your policy over to us, we can definitely take a look and just let you know if you're in a good spot, or if we see anything kind of glaring jumping out at us, like, hey, you're missing abuse coverage. That would be one that some of the general carriers do not offer, or do not always add unless you specifically ask for it. So I would just say, again, we've pretty much seen almost every insurance company's policy at one point or another. We're a little bit more versed as far as where to kind of find things on different carriers. But if there's any specific questions you have on your policy, or wanted somebody to take a look, we're more than happy to do that for you, and make any recommendations that we can as well. We're here to service you and help you and make sure that you're covered correctly, or at least as best as we can.
Thank
Great.
you, Matt.
Yep. Excellent, Matt. I just want to, kind of leave you all with, I'm kind of new here. So this comes from the newbie of the team, and been here about 19 months. What I love about the Insurance Board and what brought me here is we're a ministry and a company, but we're a ministry foremost, right? That's how we operate. That's how we are. So I say that because being here, I always tell everybody, if you have a problem, if you have a question, I don't care what it is, you'd be surprised the questions I get, right? From a loss control perspective. So how do we mitigate risk? How do we do this? We want you to contact us. My phone number, my information was there that Bernaz had on the presentation. Will be there, Donna. Call us, because we're in this together. It's a team effort. We want to make sure that your property your liability, your casualty is all up to par, so you can perform the ministries that you want to do. But our ministry starts at home and then it goes out, and the ministry is with everybody because we're a collective. So, what happens to us happens to everybody within our group and our program. So, we want to make the best for you guys. So you have my information, you know who I am now. Please reach out, say hi. And if you have questions, we'll be more than happy to answer them and guide you in the best practices of mitigating those risks and not having to talk to our claims department. That will be ideal. So thank you all for having us.
Thanks, Chad. That's why we have Chad, so we can avoid talking to the claims department.
That's it.
There you go. There you go.
They're great people, however.
Sure, thank you. I want to say thank you for the opportunity for those of you who attended today. As Chad alluded, our contact information is on this slides. Please feel free to reach out. If you need any resources, if you have a question, if you want to look at a proposal, if you're insured by us and you have made some improvements to your church, let us know so we can see if we can get you some credits. And, I'll be more than happy if it's okay. We can take the email addresses from the attendees, add them for our newsletters. That way, at least you get some of the loss control resources that we put out there. We really appreciate the opportunity. And I'm hoping that I will run into some of you at the upcoming events. We will be at Stewardship Kaleidoscope, PCCA, if you have anybody attending that camp and conference event, which is called the Great Gathering this year, just because there are multiple denominations attending. And Chad will be at the youth event in a couple weeks. So where is that at, Chad? I can't remember. Are you headed to Louisville, if I'm not mistaken? Yeah, so if you're attending the PCUSA youth event in Louisville, Kentucky, go see Chad. He doesn't look like it, but he's very tall. So, and yeah,